Hey guys, I'm Drew from Real Game Calls, and for the last over a decade, I have been leading the innovation in the elk call industry by example. So this is the Extendabull ATM. We've been making this call since about 2018. So it's gotten a little smaller over the years. It's just, I've kind of realized that you just didn't need all that volume in the call out in the woods. What this is designed for is hunting. This is not a contest call, this one. This one is just literally designed to bridge the gap between all the other bite and blow bugles that were on the market and someone who is extremely proficient with a diaphragm mouth call. You can make some really, really believable elk vocalizations with this call, but designed to sound, to imitate and mimic bull elk. To be very, very, very compact and carryable in the woods, this is kind of the next step in the performance evolution of your elk calling. To get something that sounds more realistic, that maybe takes a little bit more practice to learn how to use, but I want you to listen to real elk when you're practicing with this call. I want you to listen to 60 best bugles on YouTube or whatever, and sit there and just pick them apart. And you can do so much different stuff with this call. It's a very, very efficient, very accurate calf elk. That nasally sound really translates into those cow-calf sounds, and it makes those bugles sound really natural. Volume is variable. Pitch is controllable by how much pressure you're putting on this reed. The way that I'm going to play this call, I'm going to put my lip against my teeth. And then I'm simply going to put the top of the call against my upper lip. So this lip right here, there's a little notch, upper lip, and then your lower lip. As you're opening and closing your mouth is going to change the pressures on the reed. You're going to be able to go just like you can with the scream diaphragm, to add your voice inflection, to kind of do those buzzy, lip bally sounds with this call. So you don't have to go into this call. You can literally just go Very believable, very accurate elk sound. And the way that I'm doing that is just literally adding pressure or reducing pressure with my lip, and so that's a timing thing. That's why practice is key with this call. If you get one, I often suggest getting a backup mouthpiece, because then if something happens to this one, you got another one you can just throw in there, much like a diaphragm call. However, I would anticipate that one of these mouthpieces would last you the entire elk season, no problem. Backup is never a bad idea, though. It's definitely my favorite bite and blow design that I've ever played, and that's not just because that I invented this, but I mean, I think that's a trend. I've invented all these calls that have basically driven elk call design for the past decade, and go and ask any of my competitors who I am and what I design and what I do, and I think the look in their eyes will tell you everything you want to know. So when you get this call, the first thing that I want you to do is just to try to make a sound with it. And like I said, I'm going to basically put my lip against my teeth so that I can use my jaw to control the pressure. So I'm not going to try and project my lips up into the call. I'm literally going to make a bass line against my teeth, put the call up against the lips and my roof of my mouth, and then I'm just going is a good way to start. As soon as you feel your lip touch, not putting pressure on it, just touch it. You can do it without the voice inflection, but I'm always going to start this note and then let it drop off. So that's a really good way to just get started with this call, to learn where the pressures are. When you increase the pressure with your lip here, you have to increase the pressure here to get that ringing note. So basically, I'm going to ramp up my lip pressure as I ramp up my interior air pressure from here. It's not blowing more air, it's just going to take more pressure. And then you can kind of practice going up and down. Because that's going to link into all the notes that you're going to be able to make with this call. Just being able to figure out how the pressure is applied, how you're holding your lip, how you're adding in your voice inflection, because it's literally designed to bridge the gap between something that's super simple to play. Nothing else was out there that I liked. So I didn't like any of the bugles that were on the market, any of the bite and blow designs, and so instead of just copying whatever is manufacturable, because that's how most calls are designed, is what can they mass produce the most of for the cheapest amount so they can make the most amount of money. And I think most call companies these days aren't even owned by hunters. There are some that are still hunter owned. I don't know who owns what in this industry. If hunters aren't the main motivator behind the design of the call, if you're not the main motivation, your input and mine, and I hunt and I designed these for me because, let's be honest, I wanted calls that worked better. I didn't have calls that I thought worked proficiently, and I started with a completely fresh design. Basically, what I'm selling you is art that I built for myself to use to hunt really heavily pressured elk in units where they don't really respond to calling, to try and find them in oceans of forests where it's basically impossible. Sometimes maybe they go up above tree line, and maybe sometimes you'll see them out in a meadow, but not very often during the daytime. So heavily pressured elk, ocean of forests. The only really way that I was effectively getting into elk was to call them in. I figured that if the calls sounded better, that it would be a lot more efficient to call an elk. And then I figured out that making it easier to use would make it more consistent, so that you weren't ever fearing like you were going to make a bad sound. To make it more durable, because I was making skis at the time, and you have to warranty all that stuff. I think that's a big main manufacturing drive behind the design of my products, was having to warranty skis and not wanting to ever have to warranty an elk call. I literally wanted to build something that I could throw at the wall, that you could beat the crap out of it, but it would still perform consistently and perform efficiently to make those really believable natural elk sounds. Try the bugle call. This is the Extendabull anti-tank missile bugle. It has the single reed ballistic on it. You can get a double reed. You can get both. You can get this and use the Elk Reel, and then you can use the scream diaphragm, and you basically have a multitude of sounds that are going to sound believable, that are going to be slightly different sounding than all of the highly manufacturable calls that are on the market. And you've got these really custom, really amazing sounding calls, and that's what we use to drive what we do here at Real Game Calls. If it's not something that sounds amazing that I'm using, we don't make it at all.